Our book of the month, Everyday Spiritual Practice, Simple Pathways for Enriching Your Life, a series of essays edited by Scott W. Alexander. And here to bless those of you who remembered to spring forward. The attempt to sit silently and be aware is to become aware. And what we become aware of is a jumble mush of dancing monkeys. Our minds are filled with thoughts and emotions racing and raging. When we actually sit and notice, we discover much about ourselves, and a fair amount of it isn't particularly pleasant. But as the mind quiets a bit, other things are also revealed. We begin, perhaps, to notice the many springs of our lives. Not only are there difficulties and endings, but there are also beginnings. This slowing down and noticing is an opportunity. And this opportunity is a chance to notice the passingness of things, the precious fragility of everything. We can see it in a single blade of grass, a much-loved coffee mug, a fading photograph, a quick kiss. When we attend, really attend, we may find all moments speak of the wonder and the transitoriness of life and death within the interdependent web. This certainly has been true for me. I've found that, as hard as it can be to face, there are beauty and wonder in this existence. The simple truth is that this very moment is the only place we will find joy and love and meaning. Today's reading, today's affirmation, I'll read it through once and then I'll invite you to join me. I walk in the easy awareness of my inner being, infinite source. I practice the awareness of this presence and am guided by its wisdom and nourished by its love. My spiritual practice is effortless and fulfilling and maintains and sustains me with every breath, and so it is. Please stand and join me. I walk in the easy awareness of my inner being, infinite source. I practice the awareness of this presence and am guided by its wisdom and nourished by its love. My spiritual practice is effortless and fulfilling and maintains and sustains me with every breath, and so it is. See, the secret of life, you just got to be with it. You slide on through. Try not to do too much. Just kind of rest into what is. Oh, when have you ever heard me say be something rather than do something? You know, we're invited by the universe to be something greater than our seeming human form would allow us to be. And all month this month, we're talking about how to become that. Our theme is in the spirit of devotion. How do we devote ourselves to something greater than we are, such that we are a clearer channel for that something greater to express? And last week we talked about what is devotion? What does it mean? The dictionary tells us it means love, loyalty, enthusiasm for a person, activity, or cause, faithfulness, fidelity, constancy. Let me put it in another way. Love, loyalty, enthusiasm for that something greater than we are, the thing itself, that from which we have sprung, the great something that we can't really name, but we can poke around and try and describe it from our human point of view so that we can begin to get a bigger and better idea of how it might express as us. Are we willing to be faithful to, constant to that something that is the source of all good, all life, all energy, all power, all grace, all love? Are you in? I'm in. This is what my life is about. I am devoted to something greater than I am, and in order to allow that to drive my experience of life, I must be devoted to it, and one of the ways I express my devotion is through my spiritual practice. And so this month, we're talking about 5 kind of key spiritual practices. Last week we talked about, 2 people were there. I heard them in the back. Last week we talked about prayer. Thank you. We talked about prayer, and we talked about prayer as a mechanism that shifts us in consciousness. We don't try and get God to change. God doesn't change. God is the infinite intelligence, awareness, presence. It simply is, and it is neutral. What we must do is bring ourselves into alignment with it, and one of the tools that we use is affirmative prayer to bring us more fully into alignment with this neutral source. And I don't know about you. I mean, I think about this sometimes. You know, if God is neutral, then it could go either way with me. Right? So who chooses? I choose. I choose. I choose to align with a God of love, a God of grace, a God of power, a God of joy. I choose. And it's just out there going, okay, awesome, that's the God I will be. I know. It's a deep idea, isn't it? Because the other thing, you know, sometimes there's been times in my life that I've chosen to believe something else about God. Judgmental, vindictive. Anybody come from that kind of God? And you know what? That was how God showed up for me. Interesting, isn't it? I wonder if that says something about how our world shows up for us every day. I mean, if it works for God, maybe it works in the same way about our job. Hate my job, it's awful, terrible boss. Blah, 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 blah. Or, I love my job. What a great opportunity to know myself more deeply. What a great opportunity to practice the presence of love. Maybe it's that way about your relationship, or whatever else it is you're having judgments about. So that's a whole other Sunday, but we'll get there at some point. Right now, I need to get back on point here. So the thing that we're exploring this month is how do we actually practice being devoted to this greater something? Last week we talked about prayer. Today we are talking about meditation. Meditation. What is it? Practicing the awareness of this greater presence. That's all. Just practicing the awareness of this greater presence. I'm peeling away the layers, peeling away the human layers in order to know myself more deeply than I ever have before, but from the inside out. Do you kind of get sometimes that we're taught to see ourselves from the outside in? Well, if I were just pretty enough, I'd feel good. If I just had enough money out there, my life would be okay. That somehow we're taught to think from the outside in. And meditation helps us recognize our inner being, know the truth of who we are, the deepest core of ourselves, and then that begins to shine forth. And you know what? I don't care what you look like. You're pretty enough. I don't care how much money you make. You're blessed. When we live from the inside out, and in order to live from the inside out, we must know ourselves from the inside out. Now, has anybody ever said this phrase, oh, I can't meditate? I just can't. Can't still my mind. I do other things. I pray. I give. I whatever. Because I can't meditate. And you know what does the universe say? Yes, that's right. You can't meditate. Because that's the way the law works. It always says yes to what we put out. And if I'm standing here, oh, I just can't meditate. I want to laugh because I actually say that sometimes. So, just because I forget who I am. So let me tell you a couple things. You can meditate. You just don't know how yet. There was a time that you did not know how to walk. How did you learn to walk? You practiced. Patty taught me to throw, thank you, honey. She taught me to throw a ball. I always thought, oh, I can't throw a ball. She's like, she took me out to the park 18 years ago, and she taught me not only how to throw a ball, but how to catch a ball, which was an even bigger achievement. You know, there really is something to that phrase, keep your eye on the ball. It's real. That's not made up. If you keep your eye on the ball, you can catch it. It was amazing. It was a life discovery to me. That's not just like somebody didn't just say that and make it up. You got it. Oh, right into the glove. I get it. Okay? I didn't know how to throw and catch a ball until I practiced. I didn't know how to give a sermon until I practiced. I didn't know how to play a scale until I practiced. I didn't know how to meditate until I practiced. Thank you. You can meditate. I heard somebody say recently, if you know how to worry, you know how to meditate. Because what is worry? Focused, one-pointed attention. You just have to choose what you want your focused, one-pointed attention to be on. All the things that might not work, or all the things that are already working. Breathe in. Focused, one-pointed attention on the breath. Look, you're meditating already. It's about that simple. You just have to practice some more. And next thing you know, you got 2-3 minutes of focused, one-pointed attention on the breath. And if you do it every day, pretty soon you got 5. And pretty soon you got 20. And then you take off from there. See where you want to go. Focused, one-pointed attention. All we must do is sit, and all we must be is a listener. A listener. I don't know. I'm really good at talking. I'm not always like the best at listening. And yet, to be devoted to that something greater than I am, to have a greater experience of the divinity as me, to know myself from the inside out, I have to listen to the inside. And it's just the matter of practicing. I just have to commit to doing nothing as a spiritual practice. Nothing. How you doing? So how do we meditate? How do we commit to doing nothing as a spiritual practice? You know, a good place to start is just to be present to whatever it is. Just be present, be conscious, be aware. Am I making tea? Tea bag, teacup, water. Conscious, aware, present. Whatever I'm doing right now. Am I sitting? How am I sitting? What's happening to my body? Where are my feet? Where are my shoulders? Is my jaw stiff or soft? Am I thinking? Just become conscious, aware, and present. Eating, you know, in our spiritual practice class that we're doing right now, last week's reading had a selection in it about eating, like meditative eating. Pick up fork, food, mouth, chew, taste. Like, how do you, we shovel it in. Oh my God, this is so good. Chew, taste, be present to, be aware of. Whatever it is that you are doing right now, notice, listen, watch. What about walking? Step, heel down, toe. Interesting. Heel down, toe. Moving forward, air, moving around me. Listen, pay attention. Be present to whatever it is you're doing. You can survive no response. I think it's really interesting in our culture. We've gotten so like we get a response to everything, right? I mean, even my phone talks to me. And I talk to it. That's the scary part. I talk to my phone all the time. Like, how weird is that? I mean, 20 years ago, could you imagine? She's talking to her phone. Okay. It's good. Adorable, isn't she? But you know, we feel like something has to be responding to us all the time. You're going to survive if there's no response. I promise you. And so paying attention, being present, listening. Listening for what? What am I listening for? Well, essentially, I think what we're listening for is whatever is hidden beyond. Whatever is hidden beyond the noise. You know what I mean? There's a lot of noise in our lives, isn't there? And even when we are sitting in a completely silent room, there's a lot of noise up here. Thinking, did I start the dishwasher? Did the cats get fed? What is happening? How am I ever going to get that done in time? Oh my God, red light, stop. Like we're always going up here, aren't we? But beyond the noise is something to be heard. I was singing this morning, many years ago in the 80s, I worked in a rock and roll bar. The Heat, remember that? The Heat, Junior Cadillac, remember those bands? And then people are going, what are you talking about? They were hot stuff in Seattle, I'm here to tell you. Actually, it was right over here on, what is that road? The one over there. And you know, like the music would just go and go and go all night, right? It was so loud in there, you have no idea. It was so loud. And when the band stopped at 1:30, we kicked everybody out, and then it's 2 o'clock, right? The silence was amazing. After, 6 hours of... And I can remember counting out my bank to turn in my money, and to just hear a penny hit another penny was so intense. To hear the rustle of the bills as I'm counting out. It was like what I could hear beyond the noise was so intense and so personal and so real. And then somebody would call out from the other room, do you need this? Do you need that? You could really hear them. Do you see, beyond the noise of our lives is something very precise and very deep and very personal and very, very real. And if we can listen beyond the undisciplined voices in our head and out in the world, something wonderful is happening at the core of our being. And it is the divinity that we are, the living one, the power, the presence, the beingness of God. That's what we are listening for. Wisdom, peace, joy, connection. It's such an interesting thing how I feel more connected after a 30-minute meditation in a room all by myself than I do at a big party sometimes. Some big parties I do feel really connected. But do you see what I'm saying? That's deep within me is a sense of connection to the universe. One, universe. One thing happening deep within, beyond the undisciplined noise, is something greater than I am. Am I willing to be quiet long enough to feel that sense of connection and a deep, quiet joy? Not the kind of joy that's up all over the place, but a deep, quiet joy. Because I know that I belong to the one. I know that it belongs to me. And do you see how that fosters my experience of devotion? And you know what happens? When I come out of that place, I carry it with me, right? In the same way, dear said, well, I was traumatized when I was 14 and I just carry it with me. Like, okay. You know what else you could carry with you? That quiet sense of meaning and connection and oneness and unity. When you've had that experience, it goes with you everywhere you go if you're willing to remember it. And I don't want to diss your traumatic experience when you were 14. I mean, it's like we all had those. Maybe we were 10 or 16 or 28. I don't care. Whatever that was, it's here to teach us something. And so I don't want to make it not important because it is. But there is something just as important, or maybe even more important, my connection to the infinite that is always sustaining, that is all love, all power, all grace, all wisdom, all perfection, all wholeness, that is greater than any problem, any trauma, anything. And it resides right within me. And if I go somewhere, where am I? I'm where I went. If that thing resides in me here in this room, it resides in me at home. It resides in me in my car. It resides in me if I travel around the other side of the world. It's where I am. I cannot be separate from it. And so at need, because I have practiced, when things get stressful, I got to remember who I am from the inside out. That's right. I forgot for a moment. I am love. I am wisdom. I am joy. I am peace. I forgot. But because I had that touchstone experience, I can call it up when I need it and be in that instead of angry, instead of sad, instead of lost, instead of whatever it is. Sound good? And sometimes I need somebody to remind me who I am. Yeah? That's why we have prayer partners, and that's why we come to places like this, and why we make friends, and why we take classes. It's like because we connect with people who can help us remember when we're having a bit of a hard time. But ultimately, whose job is it to remember? In the end, it's you and only you. And you can't remember if you haven't done the work to have the experience. I'm going to take that back. Because I do believe in instant revelation of truth. I do believe that. So I'm going to take back you can't remember if you haven't had the experience. If you're open to it, you can. But it's going to be easier for you to reconnect to that greater something if you've been practicing. Have you been practicing this week? Did y'all practice this week? Good job. Oh, I like it. You did your homework? It's interesting to think about this notion of what we're thinking about and how important we think what we're thinking about is. I promise you, nothing is more important. Nothing you are thinking about is more important than clearing your mind and being available to a greater idea. So if you were going to practice meditating, what would you do? Well, you'd find a quiet place. And it's interesting because, ideally you're going to find a quiet place, but there's always noises, isn't there? And part of meditating is being at peace with whatever's going on. I hear people say, I can't meditate, it's too noisy here. Well, we're here to quiet our minds, right? Part of the key is developing the mental discipline. We had a class, I think it was last spring, we had a class in the library, and just as we were starting the meditation, somebody started the lawnmower out there, and then somebody was hammering on the light pole. They were doing some work out. It's like, you couldn't have waited 5 minutes. Like, we got the meditation is right now. But you know what? It was perfect because the mental discipline is being able to, lawnmower. Focus one point at attention. On my breath, on the something greater, on the whatever. Thank you, lawnmower, for contributing to my ability to engage in greater mental discipline. Back, focus. So you find a quiet-ish place, you sit down, check in with your body. How does it feel? Take a couple breaths. If you've got some tightness, some stuff going on, you might want to go get a massage today. But right now, you're going to breathe into any place there's any tightness, anything. Drop your shoulders, soften your jaw, relax. Some people like lotus or half lotus. I kind of really like having my feet firmly on the ground because there's something anchoring in that for me. Receptive, open position. Now just breathe. Focus on the breath. Breathe. Oh, here comes the thought. Oh, hi, baby. See you later. Off it goes. There's another one. You're so cute. There's a lawnmower. Bless the lawnmower. Let it go. That's all. It's not hard. Unless we say we can't do it. And then it's hard. See, part of developing the mental discipline to be in a committed meditative practice is simply doing it. And yes, our minds are busy little places, right? And those neurons are going to fire because we just love to think. In fact, we're programmed to think, aren't we? Thank you, universe, for programming my mind to think. And I don't need to use that skill right now. Focused, one-pointed attention on the breath. Oh, squirrel. Focused, one-pointed attention on the breath. And like I said at the beginning, if you get a minute or two, you're doing real well. And then someday you're going to get 5 if you keep on practicing, just like you learned to walk. Just like I learned to throw a ball and catch a ball, just like you could learn to play a scale or do anything else. You get better at it as you practice. You can meditate. You can come to know yourself more deeply from the inside out. And anything in you that says you can't is just a false belief. Breathe in. Breathe out. Commit to doing nothing as a spiritual practice. So shall we practice a little bit? Becca, can you give us a little music? And Becca, at some point we're just going to go into silence. I'll look at you and I'll give you a little, and then when I start talking again, we can have some more music again. Sound good? Awesome. So breathe with me. Breathing in, breathing out. Relaxing your body into the chair. Feeling your body fully supported by the chair. Your feet firmly on the ground. You are anchored to the floor. The floor is anchored to Mother Earth beneath. And then you simply relax with each and every breath more and more fully into that divinity that is within you. And just do a little check in your body right now, releasing any tension. Drop your shoulders. You might want to stretch your neck a little bit. Find the place where your head is centered over your body. And soften your jaw. And now simply feel your breath moving in and out of your body. And as you breathe, you become more relaxed, more focused, more clear. And you feel your torso expand, your chest expand and fall with each and every breath. Breathing. And as any stray thoughts come to mind, you simply bless them and let them go. And bring your attention again to your breath. And I invite you to choose a point in your breath right now. And And to simply follow that point in and out. And you follow that point in and out. And again, anytime any thoughts or feelings come, you bless them, you let them go, and you return your attention to this point in the breath, following in and following out. And as we move into a few moments of silence, you simply breathe, focus, bless, and allow. And so I do give thanks. I give thanks for these few moments of quiet. I give thanks for the opportunity to know ourselves more deeply. I give thanks for the peace that passes understanding, that descends upon us like a mantle when we say yes to the greater something we call God. I give thanks for the power and the presence, the love that is making itself known as us. By the power of our willing to be present to it. I give thanks for the transformation that is taking place within each one of us this day. For we have said yes. By our very willingness to be quiet for a few moments, we have said yes. And so I close this message with a grateful heart. I'm grateful for the transformation, grateful for the moments of quiet, grateful for the inspiration, the wisdom, the joy that we are. I call it good and very good.